Hi, it's Walter Burns from Keller Williams City Life Realty and livingonthehudson.com. Today I want to go over Hoboken for people who may or may not be familiar with it and the different condominium options and buildings that exist in the area. So right now, Hoboken along the Hudson River waterfront, directly across from Midtown Manhattan. Basically, Hoboken they call it a mile square. It's a little bit larger than that. But generally speaking, it runs all the way to the south side, essentially by the Holland Tunnel, to the north side by the Lincoln Tunnel, and in the back it runs west to the Palisades Cliff in the back, and then behind Hoboken is Jersey City Heights. So Hoboken basically runs here right along the Hudson River waterfront. It's around 15 blocks long, and it's around about 15 blocks wide. So it's a grid patterned city, very easy to navigate. Basically, starting on the south side, and I'll go over commuting options with you. There's like three main modes of transportation in Hoboken. You have the Hoboken Path Station, which is located on the south side here along the waterfront, next to the Erie-Lackawanna train station. So the Hoboken Path Station, that will take you up to 33rd Street. In New York, it goes to Christopher Street and then further up all the way to 33rd. There's also a line that goes to the World Financial Center that you could also grab from that location. So you have the path on the south side. There's also a ferry down here on the south side across that takes you to World Financial. It's run through the New York Waterway. On the north side, on 14th Street, there's another ferry terminal right here that runs up into 38th Street and West Side Highway to the New York Waterway Ferry Terminal across the river over here. So basically you have another mode for ferry. And then finally the bus. The bus runs fairly frequently in Hoboken. It starts here at the train station. There's a bus terminal, and it runs down Washington Street, pickups along Washington, and then turns on 14th Street and then goes down to the Lincoln Tunnel. There's also pickup spots on Willow and Clinton Street that drop off and pick up in the morning and evening rush hours. So the bus is pretty efficient as well. I have customers that live in the uptown area that work in Midtown Manhattan that take the bus. You could be in the city in less than half an hour. The ferry, the crossing is like 2 to 3 minutes. But it's getting to the ferry and then getting across the river. So Hoboken has many different commuting options. Basically, Hoboken can kind of be divided into like three sections. You have like the downtown section, which I would say runs from Observer Highway on the south side up to about 5th Street, and then Midtown Hoboken from 5th Street to about 10th Street. And then I would say uptown Hoboken would be 10th Street and above. Of course, there's people who say, well, no, Midtown is this or uptown is that. But just generally speaking for our demonstration here. So you have the downtown area, you have the Midtown area, and then you have the uptown area. Many people come to me and say, okay, I want to live on the waterfront. I want to be in a luxury doorman building. What are my options? Majority of the Hoboken waterfront is either commercial office space here. There's buildings down here. There's a W Hotel, which is also a condo building, or exclusive rental buildings. So you have this building, 333 Rivers exclusive rental, or Stevens Institute of Technology, the college, which occupies a gigantic chunk of the waterfront property. They own a big section. So the majority of the waterfront condos are actually up here on the northeast corner, which would be starting around 11th Street. That's Maxwell Place, 2 Constitution Court, 1450 Washington Street, 1400 Hudson, 1425 Hudson, the Hudson T Building, as well as Harborside Lofts. Like these buildings in here are like your full service concierge doorman buildings. Now, that's only one kind of property that Hoboken has. Hoboken, I would say, has like 3 to 4 like main property types. We have like the luxury doorman buildings that are along the waterfront. There's also some of those buildings back in the southwest corner, which is one of them is the Sky Club back here. You also have a few other buildings in this side here called the Skyline, Hoboken Grand. This actually here is Jersey City. This is 700 Grove and Zephyr Lofts. So the border of Jersey City is like right here. So there are some newer buildings in the southwest corner, but generally speaking, you have your newer construction, waterfront, full service building, amenity driven buildings along the waterfront. Then you have your like mid-size condo buildings, and those would be like 4 to 5 stories, 30 to 40 units, or sometimes larger with parking, but they're not high rises and they're not along the waterfront. And an example of that is over here, at what's called the Upper Grand. And that's on like 13th and Adams and 12th and Adams Street. These are smaller in height buildings. They have gyms, they have parking. They're built in the last 15, 20 years, relatively modern, but they're not along the waterfront. But it's newer construction. And you have peppered throughout Hoboken buildings like that. And they are all over basically the western blocks, I would say west of Clinton Street. There's a lot of these options in these mid-rise buildings back here throughout Hoboken. So, I've been in the market selling since 2002, and a lot of them have been built since that time, since the early 2000s, all the way up until recently in 2022. So that's the second type of option. You have like the mid-size newer buildings. Then you have buildings that are like in your brownstone row homes, something like you see here on the map, which are row homes attached. Some of these are condo buildings, so you'll have like an 8-unit building with apartments like left and right side that are walk-ups. So you have your walk-up style, old school Hoboken apartment buildings that have been converted to condo. And they are scattered throughout Hoboken. The majority of them are, I would say, like east of Clinton Street. So Clinton Street is over here, because this is the oldest part of Hoboken. So the oldest part of Hoboken is basically on the waterfront and back to Clinton Street. Some homes in here are like pre-Civil War, pre-1900. As you get further back, you're dealing with like homes that were built in the 30s and 40s, because this was where all the land was at the time to build on. So you have like the brownstone row home condominium options in buildings like you're seeing here on the map, these walk-up style buildings. Then the other option would be like your single family or 2-family brownstone style townhome, something like you would see in New York or Brooklyn. Hoboken has those. And they're very abundant in like the Hudson Street, Bloomfield, Garden Street area, especially in the uptown area. So I'll give you an example here on the map of what I'm referring to. So like right here along Hudson Street, you'll see a good example of these. And these are sometimes 1-family or 2-family homes that people use as a primary residence. And it's like zoom in here, you can get a better example of something like this. They don't turn over as frequently as the condominium market. Obviously, there's less of them, limited supply, but that gives you an idea of that kind of property in Hoboken. But generally speaking, you have the newer properties along the waterfront. You have the mid-rise properties. You have the walk-up style condominiums, and you have the full 1-family, 2-family brownstone townhome properties. Of course, there's some of these buildings you cannot own in throughout Hoboken. They're exclusive rental buildings. Like I mentioned, along the waterfront, there's exclusive rental buildings. There's also throughout Hoboken like a lot of exclusive rental buildings. So back here on Adams Street, there's a bunch. This is another one. So you have peppered throughout Hoboken a lot of rental buildings as well. But if you are looking to purchase, those are your main options. Hoboken has a lot of infrastructure. It also has a light rail. I forgot to mention that. The light rail runs from the Hoboken path, goes through Jersey City, actually on this side, and then it runs to the path and it goes to the back rear of Hoboken. So if you live in the western part of Hoboken, there is commuting options as well back here, which is the light rail. And there's a light rail stop here on 2nd Street, as well as one over here on 9th Street right here. So that will take you, you can take that south to the Hoboken path into downtown Jersey City and all the way to Liberty State Park and into Bayonne. Or you could take it north, and north it runs up to Weehawken over here behind the waterfront. The light rail is back here, and then it goes up to Union City. There's talk of one day extending it up into Bergen County, but nothing has been announced yet. So that's a general layout of Hoboken. If you have any questions, I'll link down below some searches from my website, livingonthehudson.com, where you can search for properties in the different kinds of buildings that I outlined. And you can reach me anytime at walter@livingonthehudson.com or at 347-448-3766. Have a great day.